pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would our clerk please call the roll of council?
Councilmember Dish.
Here.
Councilmember Harrison.
Here.
Councilmember Watson.
Here.
Councilmember Malik.
Here.
Councilmember Radina.
Here.
Councilmember Ghazi Edwin.
Here.
Mayor Taylor.
Here.
Councilmember Iyer.
Here.
Councilmember Ackman. Absent. Councilmember Briggs.
Here.
Councilmember Cornell.
Here.
We have a quorum.
May I have a motion, please, to approve the agenda? Moved by Councilmember Briggs, second by Councilmember Iyer. Discussion of the agenda. All in favor? All opposed? The agenda is approved. Are there communications today from our city administrator?
No, Mayor.
In the absence of introductions, we come to public comment reserve time. Public comment reserve time is an opportunity for members of the public to speak to council and the community about matters of municipal interest. To speak at public comment reserve time, one needs to have signed up in advance by contacting our city clerk. Speakers in all instances will have 3 minutes in which to speak, so please pay close attention to the time. Our clerk or the time clock will notify you when 30 seconds are remaining and when your time has expired. When your time is expired, please conclude your remarks and cede the floor. Our first speaker today is James Demore.
Mr. Demore is joining us from Zoom. Mr. Demore, caller 411. Go ahead.
Mayor Taylor, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, thanks, Chris. This is James Demore, and I'm calling regarding CA9, regarding 2857 Packard. I live near the project, although my home neighborhood is not abutting it. I've been very much interested in this project, obviously. When I was an officer of the local Sierra Club, we had weighed in against the original iteration of this project, which called for removal of many natural features and landmark trees. And council at the time did concur with us, but unfortunately there was some litigation, and the city decided not to fight it, even though they did not have good grounds to deny the project. At any rate, there are some legal challenges regarding this project, but I do have some questions. It's been 6 years since last action, as I understand it, in terms of the project. And I understand that there are some layers that have been happening with discussion that I think other people may comment more with respect to that. But why is something like this on a consent agenda that's so important? This project has certainly ramifications for the neighborhood surrounding it, loss of important natural features. I understand that, well, you were working with what you had in terms of the framework, but this is not the old site plan that we're working with. This is an alternative site plan. And furthermore, we have a totally different party on the field that was in litigation several years ago. It seems to me that it's very much a lack of transparency here, and it needs to be brought back and open. Something so different requires really this being brought to the public and submitted through usual forms, submitted through the Planning Commission for review, their likely approval, and then going to City Council. And I think in this instance, public hearings should be held so the neighborhood can last have a voice in terms of this project and at least provide input and provide you an informed choices in terms of what's happening here. I'm very uncomfortable with this precedent tonight, and Council really needs to be more assertive regarding this and re-engage the public further in regards to this matter. I think the other speaks to me more to say specifics in terms of the merits of the project and the history of it. But for me, the process here more than anything else is makes me feel very, very uncomfortable this evening.
30 seconds.
So to close, I would say take this out of the consent agenda for heaven's sakes, and put this submit this to the Planning Commission and Planning Development Services. Have the formal process as normal. Maybe waive the fees for developer potentially, but go through the process. Hold a hearing. Have a vote. And if the approval or denied, go to council and have the public and go in.
Thank you.
The way you used to do things. Thanks, Chris, for your time, and good evening.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Karen White.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Karen White. Along with my husband, we are the resident single-family homeowners of 2719 Cranbrook. For the last 20 years, my family has lived 50 yards east and maybe 100 yards north of the property at 2857 Packard. Prior to that, we rented a home at 2909 Easy Street. That backed directly on some of the oldest trees on this property. Some are older than the city of Ann Arbor itself. I apologize for not being as prepared as I should be. I only found out about this consent agenda business last night, and I had to work today, so I will try to keep it short. For those who are not aware of the history of this project, in the PUD put forward by Peters Building in 2018 and 2019, the developer claimed that in order to cover his costs, he would be forced to raise the historic home and cut down nearly all the trees and repitch the entire 8 acres of this site to make it slope toward large retention ponds along Packard and on the western edge of the property. I expect that something similar is planned for 30 market rate homes, but I'm really concerned that it might be 50 or 90 or 200. I'm disappointed that my Ward 3 representatives neglected to alert me and my neighbors to this item. I've attended coffee hours, I've signed up for emails, no news. But I've been disappointed repeatedly by the process in which City Council dealt with this development. Any real estate speculator wealthy enough to grab a piece of Ann Arbor gets to decide the future of our community. Meanwhile, citizens are being systematically sidelined. We are encouraged to share our thoughts online via forms you do not respond to, and you never address direct questions in public. You repeat very Pollyannish talking points, as in the deliberately vague, yes, it is deliberately vague, comprehensive land use plan. Your actions make it clear that speculative investors farming the real estate market have much more voice in the future of Ann Arbor than any citizen who votes here, lives here, sends their children to schools here, volunteers for civic and charitable organizations here, has any social or emotional stake in this community. I'm disappointed by your lack of leadership. I am disappointed by your lack of faith in democracy.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ann Bannister.
Hello, my name's Ann Bannister, former city council member from 2017 to 2020. And like the last two public commenters, I too am asking you to please pull CA 9 on 2857 Packard. I'd like to offer a digital tree funeral to Ann Arbor and for our record in perpetuity for losing what one planning commissioner once called the Sistine Chapel of oak trees at 2857 Packard. I'd like to refer residents to a February 2021 article in MLive by Ryan Stanton called "Developer Aims to Save Ann Arbor Oak Forest from Becoming a Subdivision." In this article, the developer in question was our very own sustainability advocate, Matt Grokoff, from Viridian fame at County Farm Park. And he was referring to the canopy proposal, which is still viewable on thrivecollaborative.com. Thrive Collaborative and Matt Grokoff had a plan to save the trees and build 51 to 70 condos and apartments. Similar features to Viridian would be included in this proposal for the canopy. It was all electric, solar powered, and net zero, following eco-friendly principles of the Living Building Challenge. Only 2.5 acres of the site would be needed for the 70 condos, and it would have left the 5 acres of heritage and landmark oak, walnut, and hickory trees preserved. The money for this was to come from the Open Space and Parkland Preservation Millage, also known as the Greenbelt Millage. 2/3 of this money is to be spent on Greenbelt outside the city, and 1/3 is supposed to be spent for parkland purchases within the city. At that time, there were 10 million in funds available, and I'm not sure what the current balance is in those funds. So fast forward 6 years to today, and we find that our comprehensive land use plan and this proposal tonight is at war with Ann Arbor's tree canopy. The comprehensive land use plan ignores trees and does not include protections for natural features or use of the Greenbelt Millage to buy jewels like this oak tree forest we're seeing set for destruction this evening. Instead, the comprehensive land use plan has the ominous language that natural features must be balanced with our other priorities. Trees are considered a barrier to development. The city is about to redevelop with no new protections for trees. Please pause the comprehensive plan and pull CA9 from tonight's agenda.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Chuck Kiefer.
Excuse me. Hi, my name is Chuck Kiefer. I live at 263 Crest Avenue in the 5th Ward. I've been an Ann Arbor resident and human services professional for 50 years now. I'm here tonight to speak both as a citizen and as a MURA advocate to ask that you immediately initiate efforts to establish and then enforce clear policies and practices that provide and guarantee full safety and security for all residents who enter into any and all city-managed properties, facilities, and programs, regardless of their citizenship status. This means, in effect, banning ICE from access to all city buildings and programs. Undocumented residents of our community, and indeed all immigrant populations locally, are facing increasingly terrifying challenges in their day-to-day lives as federal ICE officers have been ramping up their local apprehension activities, most frequently arbitrary and almost always without appropriate judicial warrant. Our neighbors, our co-workers, our fellow family members, our friends have been subjected to a special kind of extra-legal intimidation and terrorization that makes it increasingly problematic for them to avail themselves of public supports and services for which they are clearly eligible and fully entitled. It's simply not safe for them to venture out into public spaces now, as they are being kidnapped and then disappeared into an opaque carceral system that denies them due process, that obstructs their access to legal supports, and that thwarts their ability to communicate with their families. It's our belief, then, that the city has both a legal and moral obligation to ensure that whatever public services that local residents are eligible to receive can be safely accessed, especially when those services are being offered in municipal buildings and facilities. Residents must be able to trust that they can enter a city building to pay their taxes, request a building permit, or petition city council without fear of unlawful arrest. Residents must be able to feel fully comfortable in entering a city-supported community center for emergency food assistance, housing assistance, or health-related needs. And most certainly, all residents should be able to feel safe and secure if needing to appear in a public court or seek assistance from city police without having to wonder if an ICE officer might be lurking just around the corner or just down the hall. So while we very much appreciate that the city has committed itself to a stance prohibiting active collaboration with ICE enforcement activities, that commitment falls far short of what's realistically required if city buildings themselves are not protected as safe spaces for all. We recognize the array of complexities that this ask entails, but complexity is no excuse for our failure to do the right thing in our community. Other cities and municipalities have been able to establish such policies. We owe at least this much to all of our local city residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Alex Lowe.
Good evening. I do not feel safe. As an immigrant to this country, I do not feel safe with a controlling regime who so despises immigrants. As a citizen of this country, I do not feel safe with a controlling regime for whom all rule of law is simply something they believe they can ignore. As an autistic person, I do not feel safe with a federal government who targets people like me for who we are. Why am I bringing this up in this forum? It's not because I blame you at the council table for the actions of our federal government. Such a misappropriation of blame would be, quite frankly, moronic. I also come not to ask City Council to condemn these crimes against humanity. Again, action, not pandering, is what actually makes a difference in the world. I do have other reasons to feel unsafe, though, reasons over which the City Council does have control. As a person who walks in Ann Arbor, I do not feel safe knowing that we have made absolutely no progress on Vision Zero. As a person who has experienced a mental health crisis, I do not feel safe knowing that police, not mental health professionals, are the ones most likely to respond if that ever happens to me again. As someone who bikes in Ann Arbor, I do not feel safe knowing that less than a second of driver's distraction could kill me. 1 year ago, New York City started congestion pricing downtown. The results? Faster commutes for everyone, less traffic, safer streets both inside and outside the congestion zone, and fewer noise complaints. Safety cannot wait. We need congestion pricing for Ann Arbor this year.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jeremy Haley.
Jeremy Haley, Ypsi Township, and Happy New Year to everyone. I'd just like to touch on a couple things. The bond that you guys are looking into, and I haven't looked into the summary that was put out yet, is there an amortization schedule with that summary to show the amount of interest that's going to be charged on that bond over the 30 years as well? Because a bond is just a different name for a loan. There's going to be a attached interest to it. For example, if you were to take $1 million and say call it a bond and pull a 5% interest on it over 30 years, the amount of interest going to be paid is about $932,000. So if you were to pull a $300 million bond and extrapolate those numbers out, discounting 32 because it just muffles numbers, just easier to have zeros, you would come to a rate about $270 million in interest over the 30 years of that bond. That, I feel that's information the people also need to be made aware of. Because, you know, the schools just pulled a bond, and they're paying on that. And if you add the interest of those, and you guys in the next 30 years got over $1.1 billion of money to pay off. And some people say for the city of size of city Ann Arbor, that's nothing. You should ask the residents that question. They may differ slightly on that because they're the ones paying it off. This one is for Mayor Taylor on the comprehensive land plan. Did you reach out to the University of Michigan, who resides here and is a large property owner, and say, look, we're looking to do this comprehensive land plan. We'd like to at least, we know you have exempt from a lot of things. You don't have to tell us what you're doing, but did you at least reach out and say, would you like to participate in the process? Because in me, having them a good chunk of property owner of Ann Arbor, they should be included with the comprehensive land plan. In my eyes, it's not all that comprehensive when you leave a good portion of the property owner out of the conversation. And yes, I know they have a persuasive attitude with their exempt from being from all things. They feel they don't have to partake in conversations with the cities. And trust me, from Ypsi Township, we finally got them to agree to come to a meeting and talk about the data center that they want to put in our township. The same thing needs to be done if you just have, I'm just asking, have you reached out when all this was going on, asked him to partake in the whole process to make a better comprehensive land plan for all Ann Arbor. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Catherine James.
Hello, my name is Catherine James, and I'm here to address suppressed court evidence. I filed a $250,000 lawsuit against the Washtenaw County Sheriff's Department August 13, 2025, for 12 false police reports which labeled me mentally ill and emotionally disturbed because I filed reports for phone hacking, fraudulent checks, identity theft, and a car scam. Ms. Williams, who is employed at the Washtenaw County Courthouse, she was using the alias Shakita Horn. I filed a police report against her for the identity theft that took place in 2022. The summary disposition was suppressed, making me lose my case. Today, I attempted to talk to her supervisor about the suppressed evidence, the register of action, and her dual titles as supervisor and caseworker over my daughter's friend of the court account. And why am I being followed when entering the courthouse since finding Ms. Williams November of 2025? But her supervisor refused to talk to me. And I would like this investigated because an injustice was done to me, and she is named in the report and had access to the documents. And it just wasn't, it's not fair that she's able to do this to me in the position that she's in, and I just wanted to address that to you guys. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Henry Herskovitz.
Good evening. Many people, including some council members here tonight, recoil at Holocaust revisionism. The eyewitness testimonies are just too overwhelming for anyone to doubt their claims, people tell me. Tonight I'd like to look at one such testimony by a Jewish man named Herman Rosenblatt. Rosenblatt wrote a book called Angel at the Fence: The True Story of a Love That Survived. Here's what Amazon has to say about it. During World War II, Herman was forced into labor camps with his brothers. It was at Schleben labor camp that Herman met his angel. Night after night, a young Jewish girl who lived outside the camp met Herman at the fence, bringing him food and, more importantly, hope. After the war, when Herman was forging a new life for himself in New York, the most astounding miracle occurred. On a double date, he met a girl from Poland, a girl with an angelic face and the memory of helping a young boy in a concentration camp survive. Oprah Winfrey, at the time owning the highest-rated daytime TV show, had Herman on twice to tell his story. Oprah described his book as the single greatest love story in 22 years of doing this show. Unfortunately for Oprah, Herman's story was a complete fraud from beginning to end, exposed by revisionists and even by Holocaust scholars like Deborah Lipstadt. They determined that the girl had never been anywhere near the Schlieffen labor camp, and that the additional claim by Herman that he was scheduled to be gassed at Theresienstadt was likewise false, because even Deborah knows that Theresienstadt was never considered a so-called death camp. Paraphrasing famed Holocaust revisionist Robert Faurisson, eyewitness testimony without cross-examination is not evidence. Am I singling out one storyteller? Far from it. Dr. Rudolf Verba and Arnold Friedman told equally unbelievable tales, but unfortunately for them, they were forced to undergo cross-examination at the Ernst Zundel trial in Toronto in 1985. This cross-examination shredded their stories so badly that they both refused to return for the retrial 3 years later. Hopefully, our high school students will be provided with honest sources so that they can distinguish truth from fantasy. I thank you.
Our next speaker is Kathy Griswold.
Happy New Year. I'm going to forgo my prepared statement for tonight because I was informed when I first arrived that LARA, the state licensing organization, still has an active complaint against one of your employees. That's very unfortunate, but the burden is not with me because that was my only alternative after meeting with the mayor, after meeting with staff members, and if it hadn't been a valid complaint, then why is it still outstanding? In some of the statements I made regarding the comprehensive land use plan, one of them was professional interference. We have normalized a culture where elected and appointed officials and management make misleading technical statements that should be reserved for licensed professionals. This forces professional planners, and in the other case, professional transportation engineers into a difficult dance trying to align technical facts with political narratives. Now, I could have just backed away, but given that I've identified sites time and time again that are risky and then someone has died or been critically injured. It's not that I have special powers, it's that I can do a risk analysis of a certain site and I know how likely it is that a crash is going to occur. So I plead with the city, please hire an operations transportation manager. With all of the problems that we have, we could have paid for that position many times over. And the city's hesitancy to do that goes all the way back to our crosswalk ordinance, which is not based on engineering facts. And so we haven't been able to hire an operations manager or be able to do a review of how our crosswalks operate because there is concern that maybe that might be overturned or something. At this point, it's irrelevant because very few people even know what it is. A couple quick things. I got a text message from Debbie Dingle about a Washington Post article, Pedestrian Deaths and Roadside Safety Solutions. So even our Congresswoman is concerned about our pedestrian safety issues in this city. Another thing is I've contacted the University of Michigan Office of the President because I will not stand down any longer, and if the city cannot step up and work with the University of Michigan on street lighting and crosswalks and sidewalks, I will. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Blaine Coleman.
I'm telling you again, Ann Arbor City Council, I'm telling you as I've told you for over 20 years, just approve the resolution against military aid to Israel. 7 little words, we are against military aid to Israel because Israel is committing a genocide on Gaza. Now, tonight, we're living in a country where all of a sudden, the president feels completely comfortable in throwing extreme brute force against a country of brown people and black people, Venezuela. He feels absolutely comfortable in going and murdering and bombing his way into Venezuela and kidnapping the head of state and dragging him back here. This wave of brute force, I mean, it's connected. Trump is committing brute force with Netanyahu against the people of Palestine, especially Gaza, and he threatens to commit brute force relatively soon against Colombia, maybe Cuba, possibly Mexico, maybe Greenland. This wave of brute force, you have to oppose it. And a good place to start is where the United States and Israel together have killed hundreds of thousands of people in the Gaza Strip. We really don't know how many hundreds of thousands of people are buried under 60 million metric tons of rubble in Gaza, but it's a lot. That's a good place to start. Just approve the resolution against military aid to Israel. This wave of racist brute force is not something you should feel at ease with, because don't think they'll stop there. You know, Mussolini looked like a clown in the beginning, and look where he went. Hitler looked like a jackass in the beginning, and look where he went. You cannot ignore this kind of massive state violence, most especially when it's motivated by murderous racism. You can't ignore it, and you can't think that you're going to be safe from it. Did you think that Trump was kidding when he called black and brown nations quote-unquote shithole countries? From that language has come a lot of violence. Please do your part and try to stop it.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Pawn Bailey.
Be brief with y'all today. So everyone here has a responsibility to acknowledge any wrong that has been done or any wrong that is being done. And if you can, make it right, not just to your friends and family. It says the same resources, passion, energy, and diligence that is used to protect, secure, and serve everyone else in the city should be for everyone in the city. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Chuck Ream.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak today. My name is Chuck Ream. I live on Packard Street. I'm running for City Council in Ward 3. In the Comprehensive Land Use Plan, there is no attempt at balance, no protection for trees. You promise to, quote, review and rewrite the zoning code to remove barriers to housing development. Trees are a barrier, and trees are ignored in this plan. The city is about to be redeveloped, and no new protections for trees are offered, and this is unacceptable. Few people pretend anymore that this plan could bring affordability or equity. It is about the extraction of billions of dollars from Ann Arbor by big developers as we become fully gentrified. Prices will go up. The wonder of Ann Arbor will be monetized and sold until it is degraded and diminished. I'm in favor of all the flexibility that would result in new mid-level housing, right up until they start taking down trees. The most valuable land that is preserved is that which is preserved on each lot. The setbacks. That's where the character of Ann Arbor lives. That's where the trees of Ann Arbor live. You can change rules and regulations, but you can't steal land from every single lot so that it will be more valuable to developers and have less trees. I beg you to not reduce the setbacks in Ann Arbor and destroy trees over 25 years. That would mean that you might very well be thrown out of office. 6 of you can be removed in August if you really go ahead and wreck Tree City. Reducing building setbacks would destroy trees, but it would also set off the great Ann Arbor land rush as developers buy every less expensive parcel in this city and call in the bulldozers. And Ann Arbor has no modern tree protection ordinance, and we need one now. This setbacks decision will determine whether the CLUP has integrity or whether it is a dirty trick, a hoax, a stinking land grab, cloaked in values. Voters will be outraged by a decision to allow trees to be destroyed over 25 years, but City Council cares more about developers and people who will live here in the future. Current taxpayers will pay the bills and receive nearly no benefit. A majority of this council must be replaced with people who love Ann Arbor more than virtue signaling. All eyes must be focused on the zoning decision about building setbacks. We need to take our city back. See the truth about the comprehensive plan at Chuck Ream, SaveTreeCity.com. The most important thing, of course, is to get more candidates in each ward for August. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Laura Sanders.
Hello. Last January, a group of immigrant employees were disappeared by ICE from the kitchen of an Ann Arbor restaurant. Then it happened again, and again, and then again. In April, my spouse, Ramiro, a U.S. citizen from Mexico, was racially profiled by ICE in the parking lot of the Canton Courthouse. He was threatened, forced to the ground, his hands cuffed behind his back, and illegally searched. Later that day, the young man he was accompanying with a wife and infant at home was disappeared from the same lot after going to court to resolve a traffic violation. Also in April, ICE subpoenaed private Washtenaw County records to target and aid in deporting our immigrant community members. In October, children were abandoned at an Ann Arbor public school after their parents were abducted by ICE during the school day. In November, a father was detained outside a Dexter Middle School after dropping his children off, the second of such incidences we know of there. In November, ICE unlawfully disappeared two men from a local gas station on their way to their job, building a playground for local children. On November 24th, a young man was so violently assaulted in an ICE arrest at a local apartment complex that he was taken to St. Joe's Trinity emergency room. The staff treated him and then released him right back into the hands of his abusers without even questioning the unlawfulness of his arrest or his safety. In December, Customs and Border Patrol was provided bathroom services by our local police in this very building for an immigrant detainee who was likely unlawfully arrested and then disappeared. No questions asked, and no attempt to intervene by our local police. Yesterday, Willow Run Airport was used to deport the latest of 23 flights noted in the past year. From the responses of some of our city officials to Mira's public comments at the December 15th meeting, as noted in an MLive article, it seems that some of you are missing the larger point. ICE is all over our community daily, and our systems, including hospitals, housing, schools, transit, governments, courthouses, businesses, restaurants, and yes, even our local police, are still entirely unprepared to resist this assault on our immigrant community. We are complicit with ICE unless we take intentional, proactive steps to stop them. Along with our county officials, we ask that all Ann Arbor city officials champion an ICE-free zone policy initiative that prohibits ICE from entering municipal buildings or using property or resources to carry out their egregious agenda. We ask you urgently for your support and action. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there communications today from council? Councilmember Adino.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to briefly thank our staff for all of their work over the holidays and dealing with some of our storms and keeping our roads cleared and our services working to make sure that folks were safe despite the fact that it was a holiday. I know folks were working late into the evening and early morning, and so I just wanted to express my thanks to them that, you know, even when the city is officially closed, that folks are still out working to keep our community safe, and to extend my thanks to them.
Further communication from council? I'd like to recommend the following reappointment for your consideration to the Board of Review: Elizabeth Martin. Then there is a resolution to appoint Maya Curtis to the Board of Review as a non-registered elector. Is this the first item? These are first handles. All right, so those will be up at our next meeting. We have before us the consent agenda. May I have a motion, please, to approve the consent agenda? Moved by Councilmember Adina, second by Councilmember Watson. Discussion, please, of the consent agenda. Councilmember Adina.
Could I pull CA9, please?
CA9. Further discussion of the consent agenda? All in favor of the consent agenda with the exception of CA9? All opposed? The consent agenda with the exception of CA9 is approved, thus with 11 council members present, all voting in the affirmative, thus satisfying the 8-vote requirement with respect to CA7, CA5, CA8, and CA10. CA9, resolution to approve the 2857 Packard, the Enclave of Ann Arbor Development Agreement. Moved by Councilmember Adina, seconded by Councilmember Dish. Discussion, please, of CA9. Councilmember Adina.
Thank you, Mayor. And I believe Mr. Leonard might be available, and I'm hoping to ask him a question. Oh, thank you. If I just look up. Mr. Leonard, could you please give us a little bit of an overview of how we got to this project? I know that it's been a long time coming. I know that we heard from a few commenters in the beginning of the meeting as well. So if you could address why this process is being followed and how this might be impacted by the existing consent judgment with respect to the site.
Sure. Good evening, Mayor, Council, and public. This site was subject to a consent judgment, which was the mechanism which authorized a specific type of development at that location. Earlier this year, you as the council directed Administrator Tahoney, and of course with support from the city attorney, to seek a negotiation or a modification to that consent judgment, which was then presented back to you and approved in September. That has subsequently been entered into the court, and that has resulted in a flexibility for the current owner of the property or subsequent owners of the property to not be bound to the original plan that was part of the original consent judgment. It maintains that right, but it also provides the flexibility for new petitioners to seek an amended site plan. Currently, that is exactly what's happening. An amended site plan is currently under review. I want to be clear, and this is noted in the language of your resolution, that this development agreement approval would be conditioned upon the approval of that plan, which would be done by the city or by the planning manager as dictated in that consent judgment. The proposed plan that is in place that is currently under review is a reduction in units from what was previously approved under the original consent judgment of 51. The current plan is proposed for 35 single-family homes, and it's my job to advance that site plan as far as I can with the priorities that you had originally identified as a council, which is assessment and protection of landmark trees, zero reduced carbon emissions, a fully electric development, and a housing typology that complements existing housing stock.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor Dish.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councilmember Redina. Thank you, Mr. Leonard, for answering all those questions. Thank you for mentioning that there will be, or did you mention that the project will have no new gas hookups? That's the proposal on the in-stream. Yeah.
Yeah, the project is proposed to be all electric. The language in this development agreement does provide the provision for backup power generation, but it is not confirmed that the petitioner seeks to utilize that flexibility.
Mm-hmm. Great. My understanding is that there's a 22,000 roughly parks donation.
That's correct.
And did you ever get a site plan from Matt Grokoff for this site?
We never reviewed a site plan. I was actually not part of some of the conversations. For background, just as a reminder, council directed city staff to pursue some alternative development there. My understanding was that it was never realized. Some of the project parameters just were likely not going to be viable. So in short, yes, we never received a site plan, so there was never any determination on that site plan. I think that investigation sort of reached an unfruitful end.
Right. And my understanding as well is that some years ago there was a review as to whether Greenbelt funds were appropriate to acquire this site, and that review determined that that was not an appropriate use because the site did not score high enough to qualify for acquisition by Greenbelt funding. And I think there was also an issue about the acquisition price not being appropriate either. And so the council previous to 2020 voted against any consideration of using Greenbelt funds. So what we have before us is the approval of a development agreement which accompanies a site plan. And due to our rules right now, we can have a site plan that's approved by the planning manager that is attached to a development that the development agreement will come to council even though council doesn't see the site plan, because the site plan conforms to a series of either it's the zoning or in this case it's a consent and judgment or agreement that the shorthand is a by right development. We think that's a little, I know, inaccurate, but that's kind of the case that we're in right now. It is an administrative decision to approve this site plan and as well as the development agreement.
Yeah, that's accurate, and I would add that that's not unique to this property. The city council is the authority in the city that has contractual authority on behalf of the city. I can't, of course, obligate the city. So that's why development agreements come to you even for site plans that don't come to your table.
Thank you.
Councilmember Adina.
Thank you, Mayor. I also wanted to briefly address the potential canopy proposal that was brought forward several years ago. I was very involved in those conversations at the time, along with some of our staff and Mr. Grokoff and the Thrive team. I know that Thrive held a couple, or at least one, but potentially a couple of community meetings about the potential project. There was actually considerable effort to try to make that happen. We had talked about a potential proposal that could have, if developed, come before council that would have significantly subsidized the project because of the sustainability features that would be involved, and to potentially present it as a demonstration project for what's possible here in the city. It's a project I still would probably prefer. I believe it was 5 stories. It would have come with more housing. But the reality was that, I want to be very clear about kind of the history here, despite all of the efforts by the city to kind of get us to a place where that may be a proposal we could bring forward to this body. Unfortunately, the potential developer, despite having those meetings, despite kind of developing the plans, was never able to secure the necessary financing to make that happen, nor did they ever obtain a formal agreement to purchase the property or have a letter of intent to purchase the property. So it made it really challenging for the city to continue negotiations with someone who didn't actually have any legal right to the property in which they were proposing. So anyway, I just wanted to clarify some of the history there. There was a lot of work involved. There was a lot of staff time that went into something because of the potential that could exist there. But the reality was, at the end of the day, ultimately you have to be able to have all of those pieces fit together, and there was never a proposal for us to vote on or to bring forward to this body. And so, unfortunately, the proposal that is before us is not a 5-story building that would house more people. But anyway, I just wanted to clarify some of the history there.
Councilmember Ackman.
Thank you. I was hoping that staff could remind us how we got to the point of having the consent judgment for the benefit of the public, and to also speak to the tree protections that are involved in this development agreement, since the protection of trees has come up so much.
Sure. So this property started as what I would say is a pretty traditional private property initiated proposal. It was rezoned to R1E with conditions with an area plan at the time, which is not a convention that's used a lot. The subsequent site plan for that rezoning was submitted. It was reviewed and ultimately denied by the city. The property owner initiated a lawsuit against the city based on that decision. During the course of that lawsuit, the lawsuit was, and I would defer to the city attorney if I get the terminology wrong, but it was paused to provide a space for the petitioner to seek plan unit development zoning and site plan approval for that process. City staff and the petitioner worked diligently through that process. Ultimately, we're not able to reach an approved plan in that regard either. The ultimate outcome of that suit was a consent judgment that enabled the construction of a specifically attached plan for 51 homes, and included some combination of single story and 2-story homes around the perimeter and attached townhomes in the middle of the site. And that was approved 2019. I think the commenter referred to the 6-year period. You just heard a bit of history of some of the interim action that happened over the time period. And as I summarized before, that consent judgment was amended earlier this year to provide the opportunity for an alternative site plan to be considered and applied to that property. As far as tree protection, that has been identified as a priority when the council directed the renegotiation of that consent judgment. So we are continuing to review the plan for that lens. I do want to note that part of the original, there was a comment, there was some really significant trees as part of that plan. City staff has assessed that the health of those trees is no longer healthy. They're not salvageable. So in short, this plan will follow a very traditional natural features protection as far as our ordinance requirements. That's some combination of retaining landmark trees and woodlands and mitigation of any lost. Additionally, the petitioner has agreed to extend the protection of any landmark trees that are retained to a 5-year period, which is an increase from the minimum 3 years specified by our ordinance.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Further discussion? Councilmember Gaziano.
Thank you. So, Mr. Leonard, just to be clear, so the site was evaluated potentially to be taken over as park property. Is that correct?
I think, again, I'm going to defer to Councilmember Radina and perhaps Councilmember Dish, who are more familiar with that. I do believe that as part of the alternative proposal that was looked at as potentially applying park acquisition dollars to it, I'm afraid I don't have the detail about what conclusions were made, but ultimately that proposal didn't go forward. So I do think that it must have been identified as not a high value natural property or a high value park property for those resources.
Or not scoring well. Okay. Thank you so much.
Further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? It is approved. We now come to a public hearing. Public hearings are opportunities for members of the public to speak to council and the community about the specific subject matter of the public hearing. To speak at a public hearing, one need not have signed up in advance, but your speech must relate to the specific subject matter of the public hearing. That is to say, the item on the agenda to which the public hearing relates. Speakers in all instances will have 3 minutes in which to speak, so please pay close attention to the time clock. Our clerk or the time clock will notify you when 30 seconds are remaining and when your time is expired. When your time is expired, please conclude your remarks and cede the floor. Public hearing number 1, an ordinance to amend Chapter 26, Solid Waste Management of Title II of the Code of the City of Ann Arbor. Is there anyone in-house who would like to speak at this public hearing? Is there anyone online who would like to speak at this public hearing?
Mayor, I don't see any callers for this hearing.
Seeing no one, this public hearing is closed. We have before us the minutes of the council planning session of December 8 and our regular meeting minutes of December 15, 2025. May I have a motion, please, to approve these minutes? Moved by Councilmember Watson, seconded by Councilmember Redina. Discussion, please, of the minutes. All in favor? All opposed? The minutes are approved. B1, an ordinance to amend Chapter 26, Solid Waste Management of Title II of the Code of the City of Ann Arbor. Moved by Councilmember Iyer, seconded by Councilmember Cornell. Discussion, please. Councilmember Briggs.
I was just hoping that staff might be able to provide a little bit more background on the necessity for these changes. There's quite a few redlined items, and just providing a little bit more of an overview than what was kind of provided in the, there wasn't really a memo that was associated with this item.
I believe Ms. Richards is on the line.
We have a couple staff members on Zoom.
Let me know if you need me to repeat that question. You may have been coming on line at that time.
Yes, thank you. Takes just a second to join on. Appreciate that, Councilmember. These updates to the Chapter 26 of the ordinance is to bring the language of the ordinance in line with our solid waste regulations. You might have recalled that we've had a couple of updates to the regulations, one last December to address cart placement at bike lanes, and then a more robust revision to update them and bring them in line with current practice. And so this update to the Code of Ordinances was to align that with the regulations and also provide some formatting and reorganization of the information in the ordinance. There's really no major substantive changes. It's just to bring it up to date. And there's also an updated version of the regulations filed. That's part of the clerk's report on this agenda.
Wonderful. Thanks so much.
Further discussion? Thank you. Further discussion? All in favor? All opposed? It is approved. Do we have a closed session today?
We do not. Thank you, Mayor.
We have before us the clerk's report of communications, petitions, and referrals. May I have a motion, please, to approve the clerk's report? Moved by Councilmember Iyer, seconded by Councilmember Ghazi Edwin. Discussion? All in favor? All opposed? The clerk's report is approved. Are there communications today from our city attorney?
No, thank you, Mayor.
In the absence of public comment overflow, may I have a motion to adjourn, please? Moved by Councilmember Ghazi Edwin, seconded by Councilmember Harrison. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? We're adjourned.